Other than with my Prezi that I still have left. So first a little bit REST lecture. I still should introduce to you the effectiveness. And so what is the effectiveness of the pubs? Yeah, and here advantages, I said it already. Pubs have a number of advantages over other partnerships based on commercial objectives. They can be summarized as mutual understanding of public sector objectives, or ethos. In particular, if you have a quite coherent kind of political party or a consent-based system, then this can be very powerful, because you go the extra mile beyond your targets to kind of make it work with the intent you set out or with the promises that you gave. Now, if you are based on a conflict party system, then this may be very difficult. Yeah? So this is quite interesting, actually. Then you have as well transparency, accountability, low transaction costs. We had that already a little bit. Administrative costs around 2% of projects, so this is normally outpriced, and can involve local civil society workforce where required. And possibility of reinvesting 100% of available financial resources into system. So this is to say, if you have like public commitment and you do it with tax money, it kind of comes from the people. So you can as well reinvest it in the people, and then it returns, of course, to you. Does that make sense? So So, we controversial example on camera. So as we bailed out recently in the UK and Europe the banks, an alternative model would have been to give every citizen of Europe and everybody that is at the moment in Europe just the equivalent in cash to spend. Now this wouldn't have been big amounts, so the Deutsche Bank would have been heartbroken. Instead of 24 billions, they wouldn't have got anything. Instead, each of us would have got something around £5,000 that we could have spent freely. Now, that then is normally spending. Oh, sorry, excuse me a second. I just have to go to a special place. Yeah, my apologies. Back from the special place. So we could have spent the 5,000, and it goes back into the economy. Yeah, and with this money, we would have bought things probably that are taxed, as long as we buy from the formal economy, not from black markets or informal economies. That is where it gets dodgy. That are maybe not so properly taxed. Yeah. So this is the idea basically. So other benefits are as well. Partners which have benefited from a pub can become supporting partners of other cities. Yeah? So you have kind of this scheming and mentoring idea. Non-commercial relationships, low risk to municipalities. So in other words, you are not like risking a lot against it. So the dangers of losing a lot is not necessarily great. Although we have other examples where we actually know the opposite. Yeah. Local control over objectives and methods as well. Yeah. Long-term gain in capacity building is another one. Yeah. So especially if you invest, for example, into cultural assets in a community, normally that repays because people do know how to do it now and they may keep doing it. So this can be a carnival. Do we have a carnival in Newcastle? I'm just thinking, what are the Newcastle examples? We have cool festivals in the summer, right? Carnival.
Oh, carnival. The Hopkins. Do they still have that exhibition down the quayside? Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah, so we have the scientific outreach, right, where all the universities show off. And then we have as well...
Are you thinking music festival or science?
Yeah, I was just thinking there's a big science fair as well that I was as well involved the last 2 years, but...
They still have that.
Yeah, but otherwise... We had, I remember, this is quite some time now ago, 2008, 2009, there were kind of a band weekend on where nearly in all the local bars and pubs there were live bands, which was for newcomer bands, and it was kind of a theme thing And that carried on, I think, for 2 or 3 years, and I really enjoyed it. There was everything from folk music to kind of classical pieces to indie rock, pop, you name it, and even house parties in between, and house music. So it was quite impressive. But is this still happening?
You don't think? You think it was the Labour group like that, like when they have different events?
The Lake Group?
The Labour groups, they have like music events on throughout like 3 days.
Maybe it has been rebranded. I'm actually quite naive here, I have to admit. I should have done my research better. Yeah, but the idea was you have often cultural events that often come from pubs, and not where you get the drink, but the pub. Yeah, okay. It carries on, as a movement, and this is kind of what you often intend with those as well. Yeah? So to create kind of capacity building elements. So here in the region, more practical example, for example, the public partnerships between the companies and Walker. And I actually researched with them, so I wrote as well proposals for them to bid for money, and they have there now training centers, new factories for new technologies. So they built, for example, the offshore wind farms. They assembly basically. So they get the engine from Siemens, and the blades come from a. Shall I give the supply chain way? No, okay. Well, cabling is done by Duco, and then I keep it ambiguous. Yeah, and then they install it offshore. Yeah. So it's actually quite interesting, and that came from a public partnership that kind of facilitated money for a training center and linked the community to what the companies were doing. And this has spun off. Now they train as well. I don't know, quite all right for this. Okay. Oh no, I've broken it. I think. Oh no, I haven't. But now benefits for partnership working. We had that already a few times. So those are the benefits generated after the public partnership comes to an end, as a reduced transaction cost, increased outputs, and improved outcomes. For example, greater social cohesion. This is often an intent of the pubs. They have as well often a strong capacity building element, reflecting their focus on sustainable improvement and service delivery. They also tend to be oriented towards long-term societal objectives rather than short-term cost recovery. And because neither partner is taking a profit, revenues can be fully reinvested in services and maintenance. So this is actually quite interesting. So as well from the bailing out of the banks, the government gets actually a lot of interest, because a lot of it was loans as well. It's a low interest rate, but nonetheless, so there are actually returns coming, so that should be an interesting payoff. What makes for an effective partnership working? Those are kind of the general indicators. I mean, this is good as an orientation, but you kind of need to assess this, of course, on your partnership. So often you get a balanced team. So as with all organizations, if you're too one-sided, then you can as well kind of become very involved in particular agendas. So it does make sense maybe to team up with other organizations to kind of balance a little bit the perspectives of the team members. So balanced teams, trust, motivation, conflict resolution mechanisms sometimes as well. Collaboration, clarity of objectives and responsibilities, and appropriate funding, and continued sponsorship, and of course room to maneuver. So famous metaphor: what does a bird do in the mouth of the crocodile? Just get eaten?
Cleans its teeth.
Yeah, cleans the teeth. So this is a metaphor. Partnerships are built on trust. So this is very important. Now then, barriers to partnership working is as well. So basically, once you have destroyed trust, this can be even still in the same partnership, your first partnership. It's very likely to fail. If once you have created barriers, to overcome those, this is a very much an art in itself, to overcome then broken trust and rebuilding it. So previous failed attempts normally kind of put enormous barriers into the way. This can be for political reasons. Yeah? So in a lot of countries where public organizations are kind of policy-led as well, or where these institutions are part of a political party and interest, you may find that project just failed because the party that came into power thought, oh, this is a crap project, doesn't really reflect our values. We use the rest of the money to do something different. If that happens, then you may burn as well the contacts that were actually involved. Yeah, it's quite common actually in many different countries and different systems. Different organizational cultures. Yeah, so maybe one is quite financial oriented, and the other one very social impact. And this can be very alienating if you have then the debates and you try to find a common ground. Then that may be quite contradicting. Varying expectations of partners, it relates a little bit to the cultures as well. Lack of senior commitment, so it's kind of proposed, but then when it comes to resources, no commitment is given from the top. Short-term funding regimes and uncertainty is a favorite one. Yeah? Regime is shifting. Yeah? Then normally nobody wants to take the decision anymore. Yeah? Because everybody is conscious that they may be the last person held responsible for going in the wrong direction. And inequitable sharing of costs, risk and rewards is another one. Poor information exchange within and outside the partnership, and conflict between addressing local and national priorities. Although this can go any way. Yeah? So this can be as well like kind of your project ground here, and then what the bigger scheme of things is as well European side. So this doesn't have to be even national only, or there can be other political pressures that come from outside the nation. Then partnerships created from outside through the central government initiatives can create as well conflict, especially when they are imposed. Yeah, so outside pressures that don't relate to the local are normally you are pretty much safe to get into conflicting waters. Other barriers are complexity of task. This is particular in the large in the mega projects that are run between pubs. Then lack of staff, lack of skills of staff, and actually the pre-planning and committing as well the resources that become an issue. Decision-making capacity, this goes often hand in hand with a lack of skills. So people are not comfortable with what has been developed, proposed, and that they don't know if yes or no is a good answer. It becomes an issue.
What's that? No, can you just see what that is? I can't.
What?
You don't hear the banging?
Yeah, it's a door next door.
Really? Is it not got like one of those closing things?
The students leaving, that is the room next door, right?
Sounds like they're going.
Oh yeah, it's because we have here the fire doors that close automatically. That when never mind. Let's not go into too much detail for that, but it's bad. So decision-making capacity is another one, and political issues again, lack of financial resources and partner organizations, and differing working culture. So again, we had those already. There are in general real barriers to the working with each other, clash between national and local policy again. Actually, in the Northeast, we're quite famous for this, especially having, so this bang is the door basically. The Northeast has actually a reputation of having light disagreements with the British Parliament, for example. Yeah. Cost of joint working are often as well underrated, so it's the extra time taken to work in partnership. Actually, I suppose this is as well in a lot of group work pieces at university. I see this too. Students underrate the time it takes actually to come together and work in a collaborative effort as a team, and it's the same for the companies that often just think that one does that and the other one does that, and they don't consider actually bringing it together and really figuring out to make it work cohesively and basically coherent as well. The extra financial cost as well is another one. Sorry, I have to leave again for a second. Sorry. and as well the delay in action due to the need to resolve differences and the loss of control over one's own organization's activities as well and or resources. So especially if you have that on a committee level, you have to both agree to go ahead with things. So this creates a certain dynamic. Okay, we have public to public. This has taken quite some time. Did you have any questions so far? Okay, let's go into an exciting example. What was this, a PowerPoint? Does anybody know? I will have it on my ELP. Let's have a look quickly. Oh, what am I doing? So here we go. Okay, there we are, and with a little bit luck. Ah, it's PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, I should have probably just opened it on my file. This would have been a lot quicker. Okay, let's do the competing experiment. Oh, it's in my old file. Okay, I have it open. This is not good. Okay, we go with the downloaded version. I think I've crashed it. This is not really helping, is it? Yeah. Okay, I just open it on the LP. Okay, so this is basically the example, and this is vineyards near Cape Town. Yeah, it's if you ever go to South Africa, I can strongly recommend it. It's a beautiful landscape. So it's a little bit the vineyards are of course kind of artificially made, but the countryside around it is still in its original setting. It's beautiful. Can recommend it strongly. So this is really about South Africa's water partnership. So PUBs versus PPP, that is kind of the idea that we are analyzing. So you have two case studies in front of you, and what we are curious about is really to compare them and see the remit that they have, the value they brought, and where they may differ. Yeah, and if they were both successful, this is a big question. Yeah, you will see in the overall aim and objectives that they set out to do, they delivered. But the question is as well, did they really deliver what they were setting out to do? Yeah. So we look again at the dynamics in the partnership. I hope that makes sense. So following the end of apartheid, local authorities in South Africa were restructuring with the aim to integrate and reduce huge inequalities in service delivery. So actually from the background it was pretty discriminating. And they kind of turned it around, reinforced positive reinforcement, positive discrimination. So for example, I as a European there paid 70% tax, whereas normal tax levels are 35%. Yeah, this was just 70%.
Who was?
Me. As an employee, yeah, and South, yeah, because I came from a foreign, I had all the worst. So first of all, So there's a positive discrimination against men as well, because they want to balance kind of the working force. So this was already bad. So bad. Then I didn't have South African citizenship. So I was European, and I didn't work for a South African company. I worked for an American company. So this was very bad. So I was kind of in the, and I was single there. I wasn't married there, and I hadn't had any children. So there was very little remit to negotiate. So in the taxing, I was 70% on each paycheck. So this was really heartbreaking. You got this amount and like, oh, look how much I got. And then you turned around and so little left. But still, to be fair, I earned a lot in comparison. And so it was still well paid, so don't get me wrong. So overnight, many of the, my favorite word, many of white area councils became responsible for their neighborhood and townships and homelands with low levels of access to basic services, high rates of poverty and unemployment, and in some cases, need for major infrastructure investment. So this was really the situation kind of 1996. Their existing service delivery models could not handle the new demands. They were encouraged by national government to enter into partnerships. So this was as well because they knew that the infrastructure, I mean, in the public service, there were still basically people running it that had a lot of pre-biases. That they came from a system that didn't really cater to those needs. So to allow that, they kind of really sat down, started a constitution, and started partnership to have a look at what healthy relationships looks like to get it actually in the right direction. So, it's as well written. So to build new capacity and as well again access to investment. And there was actually a lot of investment money available for this at the time. Sorry. Yeah, this doesn't really help. I don't know why they've put so many townships on there. This is not what South Africa looks like everywhere. Those are particular townships, I should point that out too. So Nelspruit and Housemouth are two such examples where local authorities took different paths. And this is a case. So you have both examples, and one case is a PPP and one is a PUPS. So have a look, read them. You can as well do it in pairs. So maybe group up with somebody, or you can do it as well with three if you're sitting that way. But pair up, read the two case study, summarize the main objectives each, and maybe discuss it as well to come to a common understanding. And then we want to kind of compare the similarities and differences between each study. So they have a very similar pre-setting. And the interesting thing is, was either approach successful in meeting the objectives, and which approach do you favor and why? This is a big question. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, let's get started, and I have more tissues. I'm sorry. Are there copies left, or did you have a copy?
I brought them with me.
Oh, right. Did you want some?
That's not fine.
Okay.
No, I've got copies.
Did you have both? Case study 1 and case study 2. This is what we are comparing.
I was trying to get case study 2 last night.
Okay.
And couldn't find it.
Oh, I see.
That's my email.
But they are under each other, right?
You know you've got those boxes.
Yeah.
I click on them, they don't open.
What browser are you using?
Sorry?
What browser are you using?
The browser might be too much of a complicated question for me, I'm afraid.
Like Internet Explorer?
I go through Citrix to get on, which I've just been shown is not the right way to do it.
Do you use simply web from my...
No.
No.
But I use Citrix, that's what's on my computer. Well,
This is outdating, so you will have problems basically from April onwards. So
I've been having problems before here.
Yeah.
The task.
Yeah.
The task. You removed it.
Oh. Good point. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Let's pause this.